What if I told you that the secret to your soul's origin has been literally in your hands since the moment you drew your first breath? Look at your thumb right now. Notice its shape, its proportions, the way it curves. What you're witnessing is not merely flesh and bone, but a sacred signature, a mystical blueprint that was encoded into your very being before your soul chose to incarnate in this physical realm. For thousands of years, the most guarded secrets of the ancient mystery schools have recognized what modern science is only beginning to glimpse: that our hands are not simply tools for manipulation of the physical world, but divine instruments that carry within them the vibrational imprint of our soul's true nature and celestial origin. The knowledge you're about to receive has been preserved in the shadows of history, passed down through initiates of the most sacred traditions, from the Temple of Solomon to the Hermetic alchemists of medieval Europe, from the mystery schools of ancient Egypt to the esoteric chambers of Tibetan monasteries. This is not palmistry as the world knows it. This is something far more profound. This is the ancient art of reading the soul's signature through the sacred geometry of the thumb, a practice so powerful that it was concealed from the uninitiated for millennia. As above, so below, and what lies within your hands reveals what dwells beyond the veil of time itself. Today, you will discover why certain masters could identify a soul's purpose with a single glance at the thumb, and how this knowledge can unlock the deepest mysteries of your own spiritual journey. Prepare to see your hands and yourself in a way you never imagined possible. To understand the true power of what lies within your thumb's sacred geometry, we must journey back through the corridors of time, to civilizations that understood the hand not as mere flesh, but as a living mandala, a cosmic map of the soul's journey through eternity. In the temples of ancient Egypt, initiates of the highest order were taught that the hand was created in the image of the divine geometry that governs all creation. The priests of Thoth, the god of wisdom and sacred knowledge, developed what they called Keper Rakhet, literally translated as the becoming through the hand of light. These temple keepers discovered that the thumb, being the only digit capable of touching all others, represented the soul's ability to bridge all planes of existence. The shape of the thumb revealed which celestial realm the soul had most recently inhabited before incarnation. A broad, square thumb indicated a soul from the earthly elemental realm. A long, tapered thumb revealed origins in the stellar planes of higher consciousness. The Egyptian papyrus, known as the Scroll of the Divine Hand, discovered in a sealed chamber beneath the Temple of Karnak, describes how the god Ptah shaped each soul's thumbprint as a unique seal of its cosmic identity. The text states, "As the potter's hand shapes the clay, so does the divine architect shape the thumb to carry the memory of the soul's first awakening." The Hermetic philosophers of Alexandria took this knowledge even deeper. In the teachings attributed to Hermes Trismegistus himself, we find references to what the alchemists called Pollex Mysticus, the mystical thumb that serves as the key to the great work of spiritual transformation. The Hermetic text, the Emerald Tablet of the Sacred Hand, reveals that the thumb contains 3 distinct spiritual centers, corresponding to the alchemical principles of sulfur, mercury, and salt, the tria prima that govern all spiritual and physical manifestation. The shape and proportions of these 3 sections in the thumb reveal the soul's primary inclination toward dissolution, coagulation, or sublimation in its evolutionary journey. Medieval alchemists would spend years studying their own thumbs, using complex geometric calculations to determine their soul's position on the great wheel of becoming. Master alchemist Paracelsus wrote in his secret journal, "He who would transmute lead into gold must first read the golden signature inscribed upon his own divine digit." Within the hidden chambers of Kabbalistic study, masters developed perhaps the most sophisticated system of thumb interpretation ever conceived. They understood that the thumb, with its 3 phalanges and unique positioning, mirrored the structure of the tree of life itself. The upper phalange corresponded to the supernal triad, Kether, Chokmah, and Bina, revealing the soul's connection to the divine crown. The middle phalange reflected the moral triads, showing the soul's ethical nature and capacity for balanced judgment. the base of the thumb connected to Malkuth, the kingdom of earthly manifestation. Rabbi Isaac Luria, the great 16th century Kabbalist, taught his inner circle that by measuring the exact proportions of these sections and comparing them to sacred geometric ratios, one could determine not only the soul's origin but also its tikkun, its specific mission for spiritual repair in this incarnation. The secret Kabbalistic text, Sefer Hayad HaKadosha, the Book of the Sacred Hand, contains detailed diagrams showing how different thumb shapes correspond to the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, each letter representing a different path on the tree of life that the soul has traveled. The Judeo-Christian tradition itself contains hidden references to this sacred knowledge. In the book of Isaiah we read, "Behold, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands," Isaiah 49:16. This was not merely poetic language. Ancient Hebrew scholars understood this as referring to the divine signatures placed upon human hands before birth. The original Hebrew word used, shakak, implies not just engraving but the inscription of sacred characters that contain mystical power. Early Christian mystics, particularly those influenced by the Desert Fathers of Egypt, developed contemplative practices focused on reading these divine inscriptions. St. John of the Cross, in his mystical writings, refers to the thumb of contemplation, the spiritual faculty that allows the soul to grasp divine truths that cannot be held by ordinary understanding. This wasn't metaphorical. He was describing actual techniques passed down through Christian esoteric lineages. This knowledge was too powerful to be shared openly. Throughout history, it was preserved within the inner circles of various esoteric orders: the Knights Templar, the Rosicrucians, certain Masonic lodges, and the Hermits of Mount Carmel. The Rosicrucian manuscript, The Chemical Wedding of the Sacred Thumb, describes initiation ceremonies where candidates would have their thumbs studied by master adepts who could determine their spiritual readiness for higher teachings based on the soul signatures they bore. The uninitiated see only flesh where the wise behold the very blueprints of eternity. These traditions recognized that this knowledge carried great responsibility. To read the soul's origin in the thumb was to glimpse the sacred plan of individual destiny, knowledge that could elevate or destroy, depending on the spiritual development of the one who wielded it. Now that you understand the historical preservation of this sacred knowledge, we must delve into the spiritual mechanics that make such divine reading possible. For the thumb is not merely flesh animated by blood, it is a living antenna, a crystalline receiver tuned to the frequencies of the soul's celestial home. Ancient wisdom traditions understood what modern science is beginning to discover. The human hand contains more nerve endings per square inch than almost any other part of the body. But the initiates knew something more profound. These nerve pathways are not random. They form what the Egyptian masters called Sekhem Neteru, the power lines of the gods. The thumb contains 7 primary energy centers, corresponding to the 7 classical planets and their associated soul qualities. These centers, invisible to physical sight, but clearly perceptible to trained mystic vision, store the vibrational imprint of the soul's journey through different cosmic spheres before incarnation. When a soul prepares for physical birth, it must pass through what the Hermetic traditions call the 7 gates of descent. At each gate, it receives a particular quality or characteristic that will define its earthly mission. The shape and proportion of the thumb sections reveal which of these gates left the strongest imprint upon the soul's consciousness. The thumb's 3 phalanges are not arbitrary divisions. They represent 3 fundamental planes of existence that every soul must navigate. The upper chamber, the realm of pure will. This section, from the tip to the first joint, corresponds to what Kabbalists call Ratzon Elyon, the supernal will. Its shape reveals the soul's connection to divine purpose. A pointed tip indicates a soul drawn from the angelic realms, one whose mission involves bringing divine inspiration into earthly form. The ancient mystery schools discovered that specific geometric ratios appearing in thumb proportions correspond to different soul families or spiritual lineages. These ratios, based on divine mathematical principles found throughout nature, serve as recognition codes for souls of similar origin. The golden ratio, 1.6181, appearing in thumb proportions, indicates a soul from what Egyptian texts call the lineage of builders, those who incarnate to create lasting structures that serve spiritual evolution. These might be literal builders, but more often they are architects of consciousness, artists, spiritual teachers, and social innovators. The sacred ratio of 2:3, found in the proportions of Solomon's temple, marks souls from the priesthood of the eternal, those who serve as bridges between dimensions, often becoming healers, counselors, and keepers of sacred traditions. The hand of man is the mind of God made manifest in flesh, and the thumb is the seal of that divine authentication. The energetic spiral and soul memory. Perhaps most remarkably, the thumb contains what esoteric anatomy calls the spiral of remembrance, an energetic pattern that moves in a clockwise direction from base to tip, carrying encoded memories of the soul's pre-incarnate experiences. Advanced practitioners learn to trace this spiral with their consciousness, accessing what Tibetan teachings call rigpa, the natural awareness that remembers its true nature. The direction and intensity of this spiral vary according to the soul's origin. Souls from solar systems with clockwise rotating planets carry one pattern. Those from systems with retrograde motion carry another. This is why certain meditation traditions emphasize thumb positions in their mudras. The positioning of the thumb in relation to other fingers creates specific energetic circuits that can awaken dormant soul memories and facilitate recognition of one's true spiritual heritage. Even the physical thumbprint carries esoteric significance. The ancient Chinese masters of Wu Wei developed a complete system of soul reading based on fingerprint patterns, understanding that these seemingly random lines are actually geometric representations of the soul's energetic signature. Whorls indicate souls that have completed full cycles of experience in previous incarnations. They are the old souls, carrying deep wisdom but sometimes struggling with world weariness. Loops suggest souls in active learning phases, drawn to new experiences and expansion. Arches represent souls serving as foundational energies, providing stability and grounding for collective spiritual evolution. What appears as chance is divine order written in a language the mind cannot read, but the soul remembers perfectly. This multi-layered encoding, geometric proportions, energetic patterns, and physical markers creates what the masters called the soul's threefold signature. To read this signature accurately requires not just knowledge, but what the mystical traditions call the opened eye of the heart, a faculty of perception that sees beyond the veil of physical appearance into the luminous reality of spiritual truth. Through this lens of understanding, your thumb becomes not just a part of your body, but a sacred text written in the language of eternity, a divine document that contains the story of where you came from, why you are here, and the magnificent destiny that awaits your awakening. Throughout the ages, those who mastered the sacred art of reading the soul's thumb signature have left behind testimonies to its profound accuracy and transformative power. These are not mere stories, but documented accounts from the annals of mystical history, evidence that this ancient knowledge has consistently proven its authenticity through centuries of practice. Paracelsus, the renowned 16th century physician and alchemist, wrote extensively in his private journals about using thumb analysis to diagnose not just physical ailments, but what he called spiritual maladies, soul conditions that manifested as physical symptoms. In one particularly striking account, he describes how the thumb shape of a young nobleman revealed that his chronic melancholy stemmed from his soul's origin in the lunar spheres, requiring silver-based alchemical treatments rather than conventional medicine. The wise physician reads not only the pulse, but the sacred geometry that speaks of the soul's celestial constitution, Paracelsus recorded. His success rate in treating supposedly incurable conditions increased dramatically once he began incorporating thumb analysis into his practice. The Jesuit mystic and the papal courts. Father Athanasius Kircher, the 17th century Jesuit polymath, secretly studied this tradition while serving in the Vatican. His encrypted journals, discovered only in the 20th century, reveal how he used thumb analysis to counsel members of the papal court. In one extraordinary case, he correctly predicted that a young cardinal possessed the soul signature of a natural diplomat, leading to that man's eventual appointment as a crucial negotiator during the 30 Years' War. Kircher wrote, "God has inscribed upon each soul a mission written in symbols that the educated eye can decipher. The thumb serves as the divine seal upon this celestial mandate." The Rosicrucian Brotherhood and Soul Recognition. The secret archives of the Rosicrucian Order contain remarkable testimonies about using thumb analysis for what they called soul recognition, identifying individuals whose incarnations were specifically coordinated to work together in advancing human spiritual evolution. Christian Rosenkreuz himself, according to the Order's inner teachings, could identify members of his spiritual lineage by observing specific geometric ratios in their thumb proportions. The famous account tells of how he recognized his 7 most advanced disciples, not through interviews or tests, but through a single glance at their hands during their first meeting. One surviving Rosicrucian document states, "When souls of common origin encounter one another in physical form, their thumbs bear complementary signatures that create harmonic resonance when brought together in sacred gesture." This explains the emphasis on specific hand positions in their ritual work. Even in recent times, scattered practitioners who have maintained fragments of this tradition report extraordinary results. Dr. Carl Jung, though publicly skeptical of most occult practices, privately studied hand analysis and noted in his personal journal remarkable correlations between thumb shapes and what he called archetypal patterns in his patients' dreams and psychological development. A contemporary Tibetan Lama, whose monastery preserves ancient texts on this subject, recently shared an account of correctly identifying the reincarnation of a High Lama by examining the thumb shapes of potential candidates. The chosen child's thumb proportions matched geometric specifications recorded in texts describing the previous Lama's soul signature. In certain monastic communities that maintain unbroken lineages from ancient mystery schools, this practice continues today. Mount Athos in Greece houses a brotherhood that still uses thumb analysis as part of their spiritual direction practices. Novices report that their spiritual fathers can accurately assess their contemplative capacities and recommend appropriate practices based solely on examining their hands. One monk testified, "My elder looked at my thumb for perhaps 30 seconds, then prescribed a specific combination of prayer, fasting, and manual labor that transformed my spiritual life within months. Later, he explained that my thumb revealed a soul accustomed to the angelic choirs, requiring particular disciplines to ground that celestial energy in earthly service." Perhaps most compelling are the recorded instances where understanding one's thumb signature led to profound life changes. Historical accounts describe individuals who, upon learning their soul's true origin through this analysis, experienced what the texts call the Great Remembering, a sudden alignment between their earthly personality and their deeper spiritual nature. A 15th century merchant, after having his thumb read by a Hermetic master, abandoned his trade to become a renowned mystical poet. His thumb had revealed a soul from the sphere of Venus, destined for artistic expression of divine beauty. His subsequent writings, created after this recognition, are still studied today for their sublime spiritual content. The consistency across traditions. What makes these testimonies particularly compelling is their consistency across different cultural and religious contexts. Whether recorded by Christian mystics, Islamic Sufis, Jewish Kabbalists, or Eastern masters, the fundamental principles remain remarkably uniform. This suggests not cultural transmission, but independent discovery of the same spiritual truths, what Jung might have called evidence of universal archetypal patterns. Truth leaves its signature upon every authentic tradition, like starlight that reaches us unchanged, regardless of the different skies through which it passes. These testimonies remind us that we are not exploring mere theory or speculation, but a living tradition that has consistently demonstrated its power to reveal the deepest truths about human spiritual nature. The masters who preserved this knowledge did so not as an intellectual curiosity, but as a practical tool for accelerating human awakening. a tool whose time for wider revelation has finally arrived. In each case, the transformation came not just from learning intellectual information, but from the profound recognition that occurs when a soul remembers its true origin and purpose. This is the gift that awaits those who approach this knowledge with the proper reverence and sincere desire for spiritual truth. As we reach the end of this journey into the sacred mysteries of the thumb, pause for a moment and look again at your hands. Do you see them differently now? Can you sense the subtle presence of something magnificent that has been waiting patiently for your recognition? What you have received today is not merely information, it is an invitation to remembrance. For thousands of years, this knowledge has been preserved in the shadows, waiting for humanity to reach a level of spiritual maturity that could receive it without misuse. That time is now. Your thumb is not just a digit on your hand. It is a living testament to your soul's cosmic journey, a divine signature that connects you to realms of existence beyond the veil of ordinary perception. Every curve, every proportion, every subtle characteristic carries within it the memory of who you truly are and why you chose to be here at this precise moment in humanity's evolutionary unfoldment. The greatest mysteries are hidden not in distant galaxies, but in the sacred landscape of your own being. This ancient wisdom reveals that you are not a random accident of biology, but a conscious soul bearing specific gifts and carrying a unique mission that only you can fulfill. Your thumb holds the key to understanding that mission, not as a burden, but as a glorious opportunity to participate in the ongoing creation of divine beauty in the world. The masters who preserved this knowledge understood that true spiritual awakening comes not from escaping the physical realm, but from discovering the sacred within the mundane, the eternal within the temporal, the cosmic signature within the flesh itself. As you continue your spiritual journey, remember that every genuine esoteric tradition points to the same profound truth. You are not separate from the divine mystery. You are an expression of it, encoded with specific frequencies of light that serve the greater symphony of awakening consciousness. What you seek in the stars dwells already in the sanctuary of your own hands. There are deeper levels to this knowledge, advanced practices, and more subtle readings that reveal even greater mysteries about the soul's journey through multiple incarnations and its connection to cosmic cycles. The tradition continues, and for those whose hearts resonate with these teachings, the path of deeper initiation remains open. Until we meet again in the exploration of these sacred mysteries, carry with you the knowledge that you are a walking miracle, a divine consciousness temporarily clothed in flesh, bearing within your very body the signatures of eternity and the promise of infinite becoming. The ancient oath of the mystery schools still holds true: know thyself, and thou shalt know the universe and the gods. Your thumb is one key to that knowing. Use it wisely, with reverence for the sacred tradition that preserved it, and with gratitude for the magnificent mystery that you are. May this knowledge serve not just your awakening, but through you, the awakening of all beings who are ready to remember their true divine nature.